And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. Today's title is Home Wreckers. And I'm going to talk about men and women, male and female dynamics. And I hope I'm going to get some people who's watching, commenting, asking questions, because that's what we're here and that's what we're all about. So the next coming days and weeks, perhaps months, I'm going to be live every other day, approximately this time frame. There might be some days when there are videos, there might be some days when I'm busy and I can't, but I'm going to try to do this every other day. So pay attention to the time. It's probably around this time I'm going to be on. So we've got some interesting things going on in the world, but we're going to put them aside for a little bit and talk about the family, talk about society, talk about what we have to do together as men in order to reestablish the authority of the man. Basically, the return of kings in some sense. The reason why this is needed is because, as we can see in the world today, women not only are they kind of lost, but they're literally unhappy. They're miserable. And yes, it's caused by them because of the choices that they've made, since the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so forth. But we have to understand that we brought the point of feminism. Men did that. The patriarchy did that. Forcing women did that. Because we did not learn the principles that needed to be learned in order for us to lead with attraction in such a way that they would naturally follow us and be happy to do so. The reason why women entered into feminism and became feminists, a lot of them, was of the treatment they received being mothers in the home. And they wanted to become independent of that. So yes, we can say that women are the problem, but we gotta understand that men are the cause. We were the ones that created feminism, but we're also the ones that are going to bring back the natural order of things in order to bless the lives of women and children, firstly, but then that will naturally also bless our lives. It's kind of insane how this works. When men actually establish the right standard in their lives, everything just naturally works. That's what I talk about on this channel. I talk about masculinity. The more masculine you become, the more everything is going to be solved in your life. And the definition of masculinity is emotional stability, emotional control, being able to control one's emotions, control one's thoughts. That's what masculinity is. It's not about force. It's not about violence. It's not about rage or all those things that people believe is manly, but those things are not manly at all. In fact, force and being in the now is feminine because it is based on emotion and lack of control, and it's based on like immediate gratification. I have to do this right now. But those that are that understand rationally that it doesn't work to use anger, it doesn't work to use violence, especially not when you're the one initiating it. Sometimes it's necessary in order to defend yourself, but those are very few and far between, those occasions. Most of the time, you simply need to understand how to be rational about things, and usually everything works out on its own. Masculinity, understanding the long-term picture. So how does this apply to what I've said now when it came to the word, the real home wreckers? Well, first of all, think about it this way. We say that very often it's women that are home wreckers because they commit adultery and things like that. Men also do that, of course, when there's family. But what we've noticed is also women are the ones that initiate divorce. And in some ways, that's home wrecking, right? So 80 to 90% of the time, women are the ones that initiate divorce. The statistics might be a bit skewed because the men sometimes give in the papers, but it's really the women that get him to do it. So 80 to 90% women are always the ones that ask for divorce. Now, why is that? It's because very often the man has done something that's very stupid, or she's simply not attracted to him anymore, or it's not working in the bedroom, or she just got bored and then finds someone else on the side, and she doesn't want to be with that man anymore. Now, obviously, these are problems that we blame upon the woman, because usually in divorce situations, women become absolutely crazy and start blaming the man more than his fair share. Like, it's not really correct what is expected of men in a divorce court case. It's ridiculous because it's so skewed in terms of the women winning so many cases and the court system being completely on their side. Now, that's a story for another time. However, the reason why we came to the point of divorce and home wrecking from the woman's side is simply because the man did not do the things that were necessary in order for her to be retained. Okay, we got to understand that extreme ownership, in terms of Jocko Willink's statements, extreme ownership, it's your responsibility. If you understand that the woman has conditional love, she cannot love unconditionally. It's literally impossible. Although at times she feels like it's unconditional, she believes it's unconditional, it never is. Okay? Realize that. The sooner you realize that, the better your life is going to be. Because if you know that it's completely conditional, you will make sure that you will fulfill those conditions that are necessary in order to retain her. And it's not necessarily the conditions that she says that she wants, okay? You simply have to understand the female nature in order to retain her term. And once you understand it, it's impossible for her to dump you. It's impossible for her to cheat. It's impossible for her to do all the things that happen basically to guys in marriages and in relationships. If you understand the woman. My tagline on this channel, even though I don't talk about it much, is understand the woman and you will understand the world. Now, once that is said, what is truly the biggest reason why women divorce? And I'll tell you right now, it's because of their past experience. And that is especially their past sexual experience. So the more partners a woman has had, what's up? What's up, RK Strength Training? What's up, Ronnie? Appreciate you coming on board. The reason, wait, where was I? So the reason why women divorce, there's one reason, basically the biggest, 80% of marriages divorce because of this, is because of a woman's past sexual experience. Yes, it does that, you know, virgins divorce as well, but usually it's because they have a fear of missing out in their 20s. But most of the time, the reason why women divorce is because of their past sexual experience, and then they enter into marriage, and then long-term, the sexual relationship completely fades away. She completely loses interest. It's because the man is more interested in sex than she is. And naturally, she begins to look elsewhere to fulfill her horniness, to fulfill her sexual needs. And that is why she divorces the majority of the time. Now, very often she might want the family to work out because she has the kids. She wants her kids to have their father, etc., etc. But at the expense of her sexual needs, very few women, well, actually no women, if they have another option that is better than you, and most times that is the case in monogamy, she will leave. And if she doesn't, it's because no one else wants her. She doesn't have options. And so she ends up staying because that's the safest thing to do. So how did we get there? It's because of the pain of comparison. Women compare a lot. They compare their fun late teenage years in their 20s with their horrific experiences of marriage and monogamy in their 30s and 40s, and it becomes a recipe for disaster, or in other words, divorce half of the time, but 3/4 of the time there's an emotional divorce that happens. 15% of the time they manage to be friends and partners for the rest of their life, but the fire will always pretty much have disappeared. Why did women have many sexual partners in the first place? And that is the answer. That is the answer for the title of this video, which is The Real Homewreckers. women are not the ones that are wrecking homes. It is those that sleep around with women, the players, in advance of a woman eventually committing to a guy, who are the real home wreckers. Why is that? They've got double standard, the double standard of it's okay for men to sleep around, but women are supposed to be virgins. I won't commit to any woman who is not a virgin. This is kind of the trend that's going on in the manosphere, in the player society, where they're basically like, I want a woman that has not slept with a lot of other guys. And this is becoming harder and harder and harder to find because, girls sleep around from an early age if they're quite pretty, because they have the option to, and men initiate and push boundaries until she can no longer resist it. Women were designed as soon as possible to commit to a long-term relationship, to a sexual relationship at an early age. And I'm talking, this actually happens before 18 years old, that a woman is ready for that, but it's 18 years old. That's pretty much where it's supposed to be. However, it's problematic because this already happens in school. The real homewreckers are players that have the double standard that it's okay for them to sleep around, but they continuously blame women for their behavior when women cannot control themselves. Okay, if we could just learn that one truth, that women are not able to control themselves, they're not able to control their thoughts when they are burdened, when they're masculine. When they're feminine, however, when they're completely unburdened, it is actually possible for them to control themselves. However, in their late teenage years, the father might be able to provide for her. She goes to school, she has friends, she has everything. But the one thing that she's missing is the sexual relationship. That is where she's burdened. And guess what? She ends up trying to fulfill that need. Unfortunately, she becomes even more burdened by those past relationships over time. The moment she receives heartbreaks, which is what players give, she will become burdened even more. And this is kind of like an exponential decline curve in terms of making women miserable. The more sexual partners a woman has throughout her life, the more miserable her life is going to be. Just a fact. And the more emotionally unstable she's going to be, the more mental issues she's going to have, etc., etc., etc. So I'm on my channel, I'm a bit different than all the other guys that talk about women, because I'm all about semen retention, I'm all about voluntary celibacy, and I'm all about staying away from women absolutely completely, especially romantically. Okay, that's pretty much what I'm talking about, until you've established a strong financial foundation. That's what I'm trying to spread throughout the entire world, because if all men had set the standard of I'm going to be voluntary celibate until I'm ready to commit to the women of my choice who are absolutely from the top shelf of what I can get when I have my financial stability, guess what? At that time, no women would be sleeping around. If all men had the standard of virginity until they commit, no women would ever sleep around with anyone else, long-term partner that has committed to them for life. And that's the end goal. Even though that seems absolutely impossible, that's the standard that we as men have to set. And the best way to do that is by returning back to responsible polygyny, or polygyny, with 3 girls in love, as I teach on Girls of High Value channel, on this channel, but also on at 3 Girls in Love, with 3 with the digit, on Instagram. The reason why is because when we've got polygyny going on, we actually are able to help women to commit earlier than what they're doing today. Today, they're getting married around 27, 28, 29, 30 sometimes. That's kind of the average ages that's going on in the first world countries. But we've got to bring it back to 21, 20, 19, 18, so that men can be massively rewarded for being voluntary celibate and gaining the trust of the fathers so that they can actually receive these three women in their lives who are best friends forever, and then take the blame for everything that goes wrong in the relationship, and then be able to have these three women with him throughout the rest of his life. I highly recommend to not do this before you've gotten your financial stability set up. I highly recommend to receive the stamp of approval of the fathers, or at least from the Men of High Value channel, once we develop lots of women who believe in the same concept, because they will come. Understand that what the world is going through right now is kind of a purging of those that are low value men. When there's economic distress, when there's financial crisis, when there's depressions, the real men of high value are the ones that start to rise up and prove the results to the world. And that is the time when women will need men or men of high value the most, when they struggle to make ends meet on their own and when dangerous things are happening. That's when you should be ready as a man of high value, have set up your financial foundation, and know what you're doing in the world, and understanding female nature so that you can retain them forever and establish a powerful family that will create an amazing next generation. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys out of it. And if you've got any more questions, comment down below and I'll definitely answer them, as I always do. This is the Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. I'll see you in the next one.